President Trump stopped in Missouri Wednesday to talk taxes and campaign for Republican U.S. Senate candidate Josh Hawley. Hawley, who is Missouri's Attorney General, is running for the Senate seat currently held by Democrat Claire McCaskill. Hawley greeted Mr. Trump on the tarmac there in St. Louis Wednesday ahead of the fundraiser in the state. The president visited the Boeing plant and held a roundtable with business leaders and workers. With more on the president's visit is Jason Rosenbaum. He's a political reporter for St. Louis Public Radio. Jason, thanks for joining us. Tell us about what Josh Hawley's policies as Attorney General are and what he is selling to folks there. His plans will be if he wins the Senate seat.
Well, Josh Hawley just took office in 2017, and he already is running to become a U.S. Senator less than 2 years after taking that job. He's focused a lot in that short time of taking on big companies, big pharmaceutical companies when dealing with opioid abuse, and he's even taken on companies like Google when it comes to technological abuses that he's trying to seek out. So he's trying to incorporate that into his pitch that he's making to voters. He just started campaigning throughout the state, even though he announced late last year he would run against McCaskill. And one of the benefits of him being so new is he doesn't have a long record that can necessarily be exploited by Democrats or McCaskill in the general election campaign.
Now, you wonder how much President Trump might help or hurt in this situation. President Trump won Missouri by a big margin back in 2016, almost 20 percentage points. You did also have a Senate election that year, which was much closer. Incumbent Senator Roy Blunt fended off his Democratic challenger by just 3 percentage points. So how does President Trump's messaging now change or impact the race at all?
President Trump was very popular in Missouri's rural and exurban counties back in 2016, and there's some evidence that that popularity has remained even as his national poll numbers have gone down. What Hawley needs to do in order to win is win rural Missouri by a large margin and win most of the suburbs by a large margin. McCaskill is almost certainly going to win Missouri's big cities, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Columbia, soundly. And as long as Trump is still popular in those areas, which is by no means a certain bet in November, Hawley may have an advantage over McCaskill. But if more and more Missourians in places that voted for Trump in 2016 sour on the president for various reasons, whether it be his provocative statements or his actions, then McCaskill may have an opening to win a third term.
Now, it's interesting you say that because I was there in the state last August when President Trump was in Springfield. He was just beginning his push for tax reform. Listen to what he had to say to voters there about the incumbent Senator Claire McCaskill.
We must lower our taxes. And your senator, Claire McCaskill, she must do this for you. And if she doesn't do it for you, you have to vote her out of office.
Now, that, of course, did not happen. McCaskill did not vote for the tax bill. It passed anyway. How much does that help or hurt Republicans this time around? Because if we look at what happened in Pennsylvania, a lot of the exit polls show that Republicans were not galvanized to support the Republican candidate because of tax reform.
It really depends on how much the tax issue is an issue in November. Lots of things could happen between now and then, and both Hawley and McCaskill are trying to take advantage of that issue right now. Hawley is attacking McCaskill because she didn't end up voting for that bill, and he's basically saying he's depriving workers of a tax cut. McCaskill's kind of taking the opposite approach, that the tax cut was too geared toward the wealthy and that it's not going to be that beneficial to more middle-income and working-class Missourians. So we see that in the early scrum that is an issue now. But, I mean, from March to November is an eternity in a Missouri election cycle.
Right. And
I would say it's a safe bet that may not be an issue in November if there are other issues that supersede it.
And speaking of other issues that perhaps supersede it, maybe they have an impact, maybe they don't, Missouri's Governor Eric Greitens is still facing a felony invasion of privacy charge for threatening to blackmail his mistress, that is mistress, with a nude photo. What are we seeing as far as this race impacting views of either party?
I think that is a rare example of a situation that doesn't involve the president playing a role in the U.S. Senate race. I think some Democrats are actually hoping that Governor Greitens stays in office because they want to use his political woes as a bludgeon against people like Hawley. On the other hand, you even have some Republicans arguing that he needs to go because not only would he be a political distraction, but his ability to govern this state that has large Republican majorities in the General Assembly is compromised by all this controversy. So I think it will end up playing some role if it stretches out until November. If he does end up leaving between now and then, there's actually some fear among Democrats that his eventual replacement, Lieutenant Governor Mike Parson, may unite the GOP and may end up providing a short-term boost. But again, the Governor Greitens is still the governor. He's steadfastly refused to step aside. And as long as he's there, I think it will have some impact on the race. I think the president's approval ratings will probably have the most impact on the race.
Yeah, it will all be fascinating to watch. You've got quite a bit happening there in Missouri. Jason, we appreciate you kind of giving us your insight into what you think will happen next. Jason Rosenbaum with St. Louis Public Radio. Thanks.